Today's video is going to be one heck of a ride, because this time, accompanying you, the audience. Have you ever wondered what would go down if one day a fleet from an extraterrestrial race showed up in the sky and kicked off an invasion war on Earth? Sounds far-fetched and sci-fi, but in reality, the world's #1 superpower, the USA, takes this stuff seriously, and they've even got plans in place to counter the unwelcome visitors from outer space. How's this resistance plan going to roll out? What are the odds when we're facing off against space foes? What kind of challenges could we run into in the fight to defend Earth? Stick around, because we're about to spill all the beans. Before delving into today's exceptionally unique content, as usual, every like and subscription to your channel will be a huge motivation for the military knowledge team to bring you the best and most fascinating content. But now, let's not keep you waiting any longer. First and foremost, a crucial part of any plan to counter extraterrestrial invasion is to assess the technological disparity. Drawing from past experiences, humanity can easily recognize that we would face tremendous disadvantages against extraterrestrial forces. The reason being, when looking at human history, there's an undeniable fact. Less advanced civilizations tend to be easily subjugated, exterminated, and enslaved by more technologically advanced civilizations. The most obvious example is the fate of Native Americans, or African Americans, when Western colonialists appeared. They were exploited, slaughtered, and enslaved. Placed in the scenario of an extraterrestrial invasion, humanity would be the less developed species, while we haven't even established our own moon base. Not to mention colonization or other planets within the solar system. The adversaries have the capability to travel vast distances of light years to attack humanity. Additionally, a method often mentioned to gauge the evolution of a civilization is the Kardashev scale, originally developed by the Soviet astrophysicist Nikolai Kardashev in 1964. Some scientists later, like Carl Sagan, modified the scale to make it more specific, but fundamentally, its content remains intact. The Kardashev scale measures the development of civilizations by their total available energy output. Specifically, Type 1 civilizations can harness and utilize all available energy sources on their home planet. Type 2 civilizations can harness and utilize the energy of their host star. Type 3 civilizations have the capability to harness and utilize the energy of an entire galaxy. Although initially Kardashev believed humanity's civilization to be close to Type 1, Carl Sagan and other scientists proved otherwise. Currently, we're at about 0.72 on the Kardashev scale. Meanwhile, it can be certain that any civilization capable of traversing interstellar space far surpasses the basic Type 1 civilization. Even if they don't employ any particularly exotic technologies to humans, the gap between extraterrestrials and us could still be greater than the gap between our current civilization and ancient Egypt or the Bronze Age. However, this is extremely unfavorable for the future of humanity. If an extraterrestrial race were to find our broadcast signals, interstellar travel, and finding something on Earth might lead them to decide that human extinction is necessary to obtain it. So, does humanity stand a chance to defend itself against such a formidable foe or not? The answer is, we can try. And the fact is, the United States Department of Defense has plans prepared for that. Essentially, this plan would play out in a manner akin to how a small guerrilla force confronts a vastly superior enemy throughout history. It's called asymmetric warfare. More than just a culturally fancier term to describe a guerrilla conflict, asymmetric warfare relates to the imbalance between two opposing sides regarding social, moral, spiritual, and economic factors, alongside military or purely industrial strength in the context of an extraterrestrial attack. This is a strategy tailor-made for Earth's military forces, because every human on this blue planet would have to play a role in this epic resistance for the future of the species. The first step in the invasion defense plan is to ensure humanity isn't caught entirely off guard. While the US Department of Defense hasn't publicly declared it, perhaps this is one reason why the Airborne Object Identification and Management Program was initiated in 2007 and received a budget of up to $22 million. The project concluded the following year, but it wasn't until 2017 that the Pentagon acknowledged its existence. However, that wasn't the end of the story. On November 23, 2021, the US Department of Defense announced they had established a synchronized management and object identification group in the sky as the inheritor unit of the Special Forces for Unidentified Aerial Phenomena under the Navy. The purpose of this organization is to synchronize the efforts of the US military and government to develop and identify objects of interest in the airspace using special capabilities. Additionally, they aim to assess and mitigate any threats related to flight safety and national security. For those who don't know, a special use airspace is defined as the airspace in which activities are restricted due to their nature, or restrictions may be applied to non-restricted flight operations. The reason for establishing a special use airspace is to meet the requirements of the Department of Defense or for national security and national interests. In reality, the Synchronized Management and Object Identification Group is not an official Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Program, but UAP will be part of their mission, and as such, the world will receive early warnings about the presence of extraterrestrials. After gaining information about the appearance of strangers from outer space, the next step is to try to determine their intentions on this planet. To do that, we'll need the First Contact Protocol, currently being developed by scientists specializing in the field of extraterrestrial intelligence research. With a focus on coordination and response on a global scale, it's not difficult to predict that the first encounter with extraterrestrials will be one of the most tense events in human history. Though cautious to say, we need to mentally prepare ourselves to accept the worst. But acting aggressively from the first encounter with space visitors will ruin any chance for peace. Instead, identifying the intentions of extraterrestrials will be the top priority. Unfortunately, humanity doesn't have an easy method of communication yet, so this will be extremely challenging. Unless we're preemptively attacked, and thus the first contact being hostile, is inevitable. Some may wonder, what if the extraterrestrials come to Earth in peace as scientists or explorers? Indeed, that scenario isn't entirely implausible. However, as mentioned, advanced civilizations tend to eradicate less developed ones, as affirmed by Nick Pope, a former British defense official responsible for investigating unidentified flying phenomena or objects. According to him, the likelihood of a hostile encounter is much higher than a peaceful meeting. In the event of an invasion, several events could arise. Suppose the extraterrestrials want to take over Earth for some reason. Instead of using mass weapons, they would land on the surface to take over. In addition, to carry out a full-scale invasion of a planet, the extraterrestrial spacecraft and fleet need to be large enough to transport all the necessary troops and equipment for the campaign. This could help astronomers issue early warnings, and the United States as well as the world will have time to prepare countermeasures against the invaders. The plan will begin with locating strategically important military facilities of humanity and protecting them from the extraterrestrials' initial strike. An electromagnetic pulse explosion from high orbit will be conducted. Fortunately, plans laid out during the Cold War era from decades ago will help humanity be prepared for such a scenario, and it's almost certain they'll be put into action. Therefore, while most of the global civilian power grids are destroyed by the EMP blast, some infrastructure and military facilities that have been protected will be further reinforced. By employing nuclear standoff plans with the Soviet Union, the US military will disperse its facilities to prevent them from being wiped out by orbital attacks. Thus, aside from a few bases destroyed by extraterrestrials, casualties in the early stages of the war are likely to be low. However, this is just the beginning, and the worst is yet to come. If the extraterrestrials don't lead too far in technology, the US military and other armed forces of humanity will likely try to destroy as many landing craft of the extraterrestrials as possible as they enter the atmosphere. Despite advanced technology that could traverse many light years, extraterrestrials still have to abide by the laws of physics. When friction with the atmosphere at high speeds, the spacecraft will generate bright thermal signatures like the sun, and the decreased engine power will limit their movements. As a result, Earth's air defense systems and fighter jets will easily eliminate a significant number of targets as they attempt to land. However, it should be remembered that significant does not mean majority, and certainly not all. This moment is witnessing a powerful transformation as seen in human history, where even a few extraterrestrial ships can cause significant trouble for humanity's forces. Any spacecraft from outer space would be able to counter even our most advanced fifth-generation fighter jets, as well as cope with our most powerful anti-aircraft missiles. From there, the extraterrestrials could quickly neutralize humanity's air defense capabilities, establish air superiority, and pave the way for a ground invasion. Although human ground combat vehicles such as tanks, armored vehicles, and artillery systems may resist and inflict losses on the enemy in the early hours, they will eventually be destroyed. This could happen very quickly, and then the enemy will continue to carry out airstrikes from orbit and support from above, causing devastating damage. Combining the powerful ground combat capabilities with superior technology, it's almost certain that the conventional phase of the war will end within the first week. That's the most optimistic thinking. Despite the significant disadvantages humanity is facing, nuclear missiles have not been used because escalating the war effort to such a degree is likely to provoke extraterrestrials to use massively destructive weapons beyond our imagination, or at least they would cause harm to surviving Earthlings and make subsequent resistance much more difficult. An important point to note is that the spacecraft of the adversary may have had to traverse distances equivalent to light years to get here. And as you may know, space travel harbors countless dangers from deadly radiation to high-speed space debris. Therefore, they would be equipped with powerful defense technology, enough to withstand collisions that could generate energy equivalent to a nuclear explosion. Hence, attempting to attack large transport ships with nuclear weapons while they are still in orbit may not be effective. When the conventional phase of the war ends and nuclear weapons become ineffective, the longest, bitterest, most intense phase of guerrilla warfare will begin. The objective and mission for this phase of the war are simple: destroy as many extraterrestrials and as much of their equipment as possible. The idea is to make the price of invasion so high that the enemy has no choice but to retreat. To carry out this resistance plan, the United States needs to continue implementing a plan that has been in place since the Cold War era. This plan aims to maintain the existence and operation of the government even before the invasion begins. It is designed to ensure the presence of a supreme constitutional authority with clear lines of succession for the presidency and the key departments of all major federal agencies. Along with this, there need to be numerous crisis relocation facilities across the country, designed to serve as shelters for all those who will perform core functions of the federal government in the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Thanks to the uninterrupted existence and operation of the government, command and control become more flexible when facing an extraterrestrial invasion. These efforts, although may lead to the loss of facilities, will help society transition to a state where all activities serve the war effort, even surpassing ancient Spartan warfare. Soldiers will train civilians, turning them into irregular warriors capable of inflicting damage on the enemy through ambushes, raids, terrorist attacks, and any other form of asymmetric warfare. Women will be prioritized for maximum protection and hardly deployed to the battlefield unless absolutely necessary, for the simple reason that human warriors will incur countless casualties and need to replenish forces as much and as quickly as possible. Therefore, women need to bear as many children as possible to ensure a stable labor force for the daunting resistance ahead. Although this may entail temporarily, let me reiterate, temporarily setting aside some traditions and ethical values, it's necessary to secure the future of humanity by reproducing faster than the extraterrestrial species to counter extinction. Humanity will gain a significant advantage over the extraterrestrial forces. The reason is that they greatly need to transport troops and supplies across the interstellar space. No matter how advanced they are, this remains a task of immense cost and inherent, unpredictable risks. Perhaps the invaders will bring along some reproductive settlers, but this number is likely to be very small due to the high cost of transportation. While devoting more resources to the military, any casualties among the extraterrestrials will be much costlier than ours as the war continues for decades. Furthermore, swiftly grasping and reversing the enemy's technology will be a top priority. By doing so, the technological gap between humans and extraterrestrials will narrow. Consequently, the casualty rate will gradually decrease after each collision. As we, through our Homo sapiens brains, gain more insights into the enemy's strategies, technology, and biological characteristics, it will become exceedingly costly for them to replace their manpower and resources. At some point, they will no longer be able to balance the equation of benefits and costs, while humanity continues guerrilla resistance for many years. Despite the horrendous losses borne by the survivors, thus there will be no reinforcements, as even a rescue mission for extraterrestrial soldiers is extremely costly, causing the invasion campaign to end, retreat, and surrender. For humanity, the price to pay is immense, with a drastic decline in the total population. Although this war may cause dreadful losses, we have emerged victorious. The Earth is now free from the shadow of invasion for decades, and the survivors can rebuild everything from the ashes. Now, humanity possesses both advanced weapon technology and much more abundant knowledge than before. If the enemy decides to return, we will prevail once again. This demonstrates the strength of human freedom to the fullest extent. The plan of the United States military to defeat the alien invasion is perhaps the best course of action that can be implemented in reality. Decades of preparation for nuclear warfare since the Cold War era have equipped the nation with astonishing resilience against potential doomsday scenarios that could have wiped out previous proposals. However, assumptions still need to be made about various factors, such as the motives or cultural style of the extraterrestrial beings. There's no guarantee that we can organize a guerrilla resistance when faced with such overwhelming technological superiority. This might not be the Hollywood preferred scenario, but it's highly plausible. Humanity would be utterly powerless against the alien invasion. What do you think about the American resistance plan? Will it help us resist the invasion of an advanced extraterrestrial civilization? Or are there any shortcomings that you would like to add? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below.